If you were walking through New York's dark streets in the 1970s, something was changing in the air. Punk music was being born. And right in the middle of all that chaos, that rage, that freedom, there was a woman with platinum blonde hair and an ice-cold stare. Her name was Debbie Harry, but she wasn't just a singer. She was a revolution, an icon, a force that broke the rules and rewrote them. No one could know back then that this woman would change rock history forever. This is Debbie Harry's journey to becoming the queen of punk. 25 moments, 25 scenes, 25 secrets. And some of them may have never been told until today. Born in Miami in 1945 as Angela Tremble, she was adopted at just 3 months old. Catherine and Richard Harry took her and moved to Hawthorne, a small town in New Jersey. Little Debbie always felt different. While other kids played baseball, she watched from the window, listening to Marilyn Monroe songs on the radio. Her grandmother once told her, "You're too bright for this town, Debbie. One day, the world will see you." But no one knew how that day would come. Debbie wasn't just an ordinary girl. Inside her, a star was sleeping. In the late 1960s, Debbie moved to the city she'd dreamed of, New York. With her long brown hair, an old guitar case, and big dreams, she started singing at folk bars in Greenwich Village. One midnight at the famous bar The Bitter End, she took the stage. There were only 5 people in the audience. When she finished her song, no one applauded. Backstage, she cried. Maybe I'm not good enough, she thought. But right then, a waiter handed her a crumpled napkin. Scrawled on it was a sentence. "Don't give up. Your voice is different. The world needs different voices." Who wrote it? Debbie never found out, but that napkin saved her life. In 1973, Debbie joined a group called the Stilettos. This band, seeking an experimental sound mixing glam and punk with female vocals, was making waves in New York's underground scene. At the first rehearsal, Debbie had dyed her hair platinum blonde. Black leather jacket, ripped skirt, deep red lipstick. The other band members stared in shock. "This is too much," someone said. Debbie smiled. "No, this is just right." When she took the stage at their first show at Max's Kansas City, the audience froze. "Who is this woman?" they whispered. That night, Debbie Harry stopped being a folk singer. That night, a punk icon was born. The Stilettos' guitarist was Chris Stein. The first day they looked at each other, they understood without speaking a word. Music was already talking between them. One evening after rehearsal, sitting in a dingy East Village bar, Chris said to her, "You're getting lost in this band, Debbie. We should have our own group." Debbie looked at him through the cigarette smoke. "You and me?" Chris nodded. "You and me, and we're going to change the world." In late summer 1974, Blondie was formed. The name came from men constantly yelling, "Hey Blondie," at Debbie on the street. Chris had said, "Turn it into your power." And Debbie did exactly that. CBGB in New York's Bowery neighborhood was legendary. Ramones, Television, Patti Smith, Talking Heads, they all played there. One winter night in 1975, Blondie took the CBGB stage for the first time. The place was packed, cigarette smoke, cheap beer smell, anticipation. When Debbie walked on stage, there was silence, because she was so different from the others. So beautiful, so bright, so controlled. She was the complete opposite of punk's male-dominated, ugly, chaotic energy. "A punk queen can't exist," someone muttered in the back row. But then the music started, and Debbie proved something to everyone. She was the rule-breaking queen, and punk would play by her rules. In 1976, Blondie released their first single, Ex-Offender. The song was provocative, sexual, boundary-pushing. Radio stations refused to play it. "Too explicit," they said. "Too disturbing." Debbie shrugged. Music should disturb. Otherwise, what's the point? The song played on underground radio. It was danced to in clubs, and Blondie's name slowly started spreading. This wasn't just a song. This was a declaration of war. One night, famous artist Andy Warhol saw Debbie at Max's Kansas City. He immediately approached her. "Who are you?" he asked. Debbie answered, "I'm Debbie. Who are you?" Warhol smiled. "You look like a work of art. Come to the factory." The factory was Warhol's studio. Artists, actors, musicians, writers, everyone was there. Debbie had found a place where she belonged for the first time. Warhol told her, "You shouldn't just be a singer. You should be an icon. People should see you, remember you, dream about you." And Debbie did exactly that. She turned herself into a brand, an image, a dream. In 1978, Blondie made a very controversial decision. They wanted to record a song called Heart of Glass. And this song was disco music. The punk community went crazy. "Betrayal!" they shouted. Blondie sold out! At CBGB, old friends stopped talking to them, but Debbie was determined. We do whatever we want, she said. If punk means freedom, then I'm free to make disco. The song was released in 1979, and it became a phenomenon. It rose to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It played on the radio, in disco clubs, even in punk bars. Everyone was dancing. The critics were wrong. Debbie hadn't killed punk. She'd expanded it. In 1980, famous director Paul Schrader was looking for a theme song for the movie American Gigolo. This film, starring Richard Gere, told the story of a male escort. Electronic music producer Giorgio Moroder called Debbie. "Let's make something together," he said. In the studio, as Moroder pressed the synthesizer keys, Debbie approached the microphone. "Color me your color, baby!" When she sang the first line, everyone in the studio trembled. This wasn't just a song, this was a scream, a call, a seduction. When Call Me came out, it exploded. It stayed at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 6 weeks. Debbie Harry was no longer just a punk star. She had become a pop icon. In 1981, Blondie recorded a song called Rapture, and this song made music history. Because it had a rap section in the middle, Debbie Harry became the first mainstream white female artist to rap. The hip-hop community was initially skeptical. "Is she stealing our culture?" they asked. But then they listened carefully. Debbie was respectfully referencing Fab Five Freddy and Grandmaster Flash. "Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly." This was a cultural bridge, and rap music had now entered the mainstream. Grandmaster Flash said years later, "Debbie opened doors for us. We're grateful to her." In the mid-1980s, Chris Stein became seriously ill. Pemphigus, a rare autoimmune disease. His skin was covered in blisters and sores. His life was in danger. Debbie completely stopped her career. Concerts were canceled. Album plans were shelved. She just stayed by Chris's side, in hospital rooms, at doctor appointments, through medication trials. "You saved my life," he said to her one night. "Now it's my turn to save yours." This was the darkest time for Debbie, but it was also proof of the greatest love and sacrifice. During this dark period, Debbie broke down. Stress, fear, hopelessness. And for a while, she turned to drugs. She used heroin. Friends warned her. "Debbie, you're killing yourself." One night, she looked in the bathroom mirror. She didn't recognize the person she saw. Pale face, deep eye sockets, lost gaze. "This isn't me," she whispered. That night, she made a decision. She would stand up. She would fight. She started treatment. And slowly, she reclaimed herself. Years later, in an interview, she said, "Everyone falls. What matters is getting up." In the 1990s, Debbie Harry disappeared from view. Grunge, alternative rock, hip-hop. Music had changed, and Debbie seemed to have been left behind. MTV wasn't showing her. Radio wasn't playing her. In an interview, a young journalist asked her, "Is it over, Debbie?" Debbie looked into her eyes. Without hesitation, she answered, "No, I haven't even started yet." In 1999, Blondie released a song called Maria, and a miracle happened. The song shot to #1 in the United Kingdom. Radio, clubs, MTV, everyone was talking about Debbie Harry again. "She's back!" they were shouting. Debbie was 54 years old, but on stage, she stood stronger than her 25-year-old self. Because now she wasn't just young and beautiful. She was experienced, she was wise, she was invincible. Debbie Harry wasn't just a musician. She was a fashion icon. Versace wanted her on the runway. Jean-Paul Gaultier designed special outfits for her. Vivienne Westwood cited her as an inspiration. Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, all the magazines put her on their covers. A fashion editor said, "Debbie destroyed fashion rules and then created her own." Throughout her career, Debbie Harry walked a fine line. Men wanted to see her as a sexual object, but Debbie never gave up control. In an interview, she said, "I'm sexy because I choose to be, but that doesn't mean you get to objectify me. I'm in charge here. I make the decisions." Young women took her as a role model because Debbie could be both feminine and powerful. She carried grace and toughness together. In 2006, Blondie was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. On the ceremony night, when Debbie Harry took the stage, she couldn't hold back her tears. "We thought we'd never be accepted," she said. "Punks, outcasts, rebels who didn't follow the rules. But here we are, and we made history." In the back of the hall, a young musician was crying. Debbie was a legend to them. That night, the legend was crowned. In 2015, Debbie Harry turned 70, but she wasn't thinking about retiring. "Music is my identity," she said. "How can I give up my identity?" At concerts, young fans watched her. "She's our grandmother's age, but cooler than us," they said. Debbie proved that age is just a number. Rock never dies, and neither does Debbie. Here's an interesting truth. Debbie Harry never identified herself as punk. "I just make music," she would always say. Others stick on the labels. But the world called her the queen of punk. And she wore that crown because punk wasn't just a music genre. Punk was an attitude, and Debbie's attitude was more punk than anyone's. When Atomic was released in 1979, dance floors exploded. A mix of disco, punk, new wave, electronic everything. Debbie said about the song, "Love is like an atomic bomb. It explodes, and nothing is the same afterwards." The song became a worldwide hit, and even today it continues to play in clubs. Debbie Harry wasn't just a musician, she also acted. She had roles in David Cronenberg's dystopian film, Videodrome, and John Waters' cult film, Hairspray. Critics praised her. "She's not just a pretty face, she's a real artist." In an interview, Debbie said, "I've always acted, on stage, on camera, in life." Debbie Harry was New York itself. Dirty, dangerous, chaotic, but just as fascinating, 1970s New York. "The city created me," she would say. "The streets educated me, CBGB was my university, and the stage was my church." The true story of One Way or Another is dark. Debbie had a stalker. He was following her, scaring her, threatening her, and Debbie turned that fear into a song. "One way or another, I'm gonna find ya." This wasn't a victim song. This was a hunter song, a power song, a revenge song. Madonna said in an interview, "If Debbie Harry hadn't existed, I wouldn't exist either." Lady Gaga, "She gave me courage." Gwen Stefani, Shirley Manson, Hayley Williams, all powerful female rock stars cited Debbie as their inspiration because Debbie had opened a path for them. "You can do it too," she had said silently. "Be yourself." Debbie Harry wasn't just a musician. She was a cultural revolution. She influenced punk, pop, rap, fashion, feminism, everything. And today, at 78, she's still living, still creating, still inspiring. In an interview, they asked her, "Have you ever thought about stopping?" Debbie smiled. "Stopping is dying, and I'm not ready to die yet." So, which Debbie Harry moment do you love the most? Share with us in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another journey through rock history.